not feelings.
It's facts, not feelings. Wanted to be the hero, but turned into the villain. Something like the Penguin, never like Bruce Wayne. I came from the gutter, not addicted to the fame, but the streets know my name, beat them at their own game. 20 years later, claim the head of the table. I'm my brother's keeper, but more Cain than Abel. Eliminate your brother and I'm the tribal boss. Murder so many tribes, calling trap lord wrong. It's a scary story, son and all these rappers sending them the moral. Never did it for the glory or the hot taste, did it for Grandma Ruby, who said I was special right out the gate. So continue to hate when you failed to see. You took your best shot and you bricked your three. The BSO legacy like the Bulls dynasty. My G, it looks like you need some milk. Let me call RG3. These are facts, not feelings. 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 It's the Headline King Robert Littal.
The first thing that we got to do is we got to get Jimmy Butler's agent on the line, and he needs to apologize to Shams. Kay Adams was watching. You cannot call Shams a liar, and then he's proven to be correct without an apology. It's 2025. Accountability is important. Now, the second thing is a question. I do not have the answer. I am posing the question to you. Has Jimmy Butler ever been a franchise player? Or was he just Robert Horry with better hair and a coffee shop? I'm asking. Because he's had a very interesting career. He's always been good. He's always been solid. But he's never been in any type of MVP conversations. He's never been in any type of conversation as the best players in the league. He's been in conversations of best interview with Rachel Nichols. But he hasn't never been in those conversations. The LeBron conversation, the Steph conversation, the Jokic conversation, the Giannis conversation. He's Jimmy Butler. And he does amazing things in the playoffs. But it's an interesting twist. Because if he was that guy, the Heat would never be 7 and 8 seeds. They wouldn't have an underdog story. If he was that guy, they would be 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds. One of the reasons they've been underdog seeds is because in the regular season, Jimmy has been, he's been good. He's been okay. You know, Paul George without a podcast. Does that make you a franchise guy? Does that make you the type of guy that a team will be willing to give up assets for when he's 35 years old? And while there can be some debate on when Jimmy Butler leaves a team, is it the teams that's the problem or Jimmy that's the problem? There is no debate that there's always a problem when he leaves. It's never smooth. It's never happily. It's never without drama. So if you are a team, a contending team, do you want Jimmy Butler on your squad? He has proven to be able to take teams that weren't great in the regular season, mainly because either of his non-availability or him being blah in the regular season, to the NBA Finals. Now, he has not been able to get over the hump because normally when you hit the NBA Finals, you're hitting some sort of super team. How does he fit in with your locker room? What if he doesn't like your coffee? Jimmy said he lost his joy for basketball. Good question by the reporter. Can you get your joy back in Miami? Jimmy said, nah. Now, how do you put a player back on the floor like that? I don't know. But that's what they're going to do. One could say when you make the amount of money that Jimmy Butler is making, you better find that joy, no matter where you're at. But a lot of people hate their jobs. A lot of people don't like where they work, and they show up every day because they want their paycheck. Now, I assume Jimmy wants to get paid, so Jimmy will be out there. It's not like Jimmy has ever been a great regular season player, so you probably won't even notice the difference. So I ask you again, I guess it's a two-part question. Has Jimmy Butler ever been a franchise player? And is Jimmy Butler worth the trouble to be traded for at 35 years old and clearly at the end of his career? Have we seen the best of Jimmy Butler? And what you're going to get, just an old, washed up guy that, wants to hang out and do his hair and really doesn't care that much for basketball anymore. You let me know. Anthony Richardson got to get the hell up out of Indianapolis. I've seen this movie before, and I know how it ends. I got up this morning, got me a cup of coffee. My plans were to take down my Christmas lights, cut my Christmas tree, and be jolly. But then I saw Pat McAfee go hit him up on the Colts organization, and specifically Anthony Richardson. And I couldn't let it go by without giving my 2 cents. Oftentimes I say facts, not feelings. But this is an opinion. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it. It's not my job to change your opinion. It's my job to give my opinion. So here's what Pat had to say. And I quote, "That's literally the only thing you need to tell someone who knows ball, and they could tell you everything about this team. Hey, the franchise quarterback who's a professional athlete getting paid millions of dollars and the face of a multi-billion-dollar franchise tapped out of the game because he was tired in the middle of the season. Oh, wow! That team has no chance," would be the immediate response. And to the surprise of nobody, that was the response by everyone who ever played or coached the game before. But Colts blogs and fans who have been covering the Colts since 2020 and more recent knew better than everybody. Started personally attacking me and trying to kick me out of town. When I said Joe Flacco gives us a better chance to win than AR immediately after the tap out, I would have said whatever backup quarterback we had on the roster. That can't be what the face of your team is doing. It just can't be. And to the bigger aspect of it all, somehow AR thought it was okay to do that. That's a locker room issue. That's a culture issues. That's an indicator of a losing attitude radiating through a building that was built by greats. Lovely worded statement. Lovely worded. If you want to critique Anthony Richardson, the quarterback, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. he has a long ways to go as a quarterback. He had a long ways to go if you watched him at Florida. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The part that I take exception with, the part that makes me think that Anthony Richardson needs to get the hell up out of there, is the part where he speaks on how Anthony Richardson cannot be the face of your franchise. It goes to the hot take media of the world. The only mistake that Anthony Richardson made was telling the truth. If Anthony Richardson said, I felt something in my back, I think I twisted my ankle, my arm went numb for a play, nobody would be talking about this. But he told the truth. He's running around. He couldn't catch his breath. The team didn't take a timeout. He didn't lay on the ground and fake an injury, which happens in college football almost weekly. And therefore, being a 22-year-old who doesn't know any better, he told the truth. And he's been crucified for it ever since. They benched him for Joe Flacco. And according to Mr. McAfee, any backup quarterback he would have wanted in besides Anthony Richardson. Of course, Flacco went 1-4. They needed Anthony Richardson to come back to even get in the playoff picture. But that wasn't mentioned in McAfee's tweet. I don't have an issue with Pat McAfee. I think what he's done, going from punter to multimedia brand, is impressive, something that should be taught in journalism schools all over the world. The issue is you can't fake being a journalist. You can't act like you're not media when you are. You can't go and have it both ways. You can't critique a professional quarterback as a professional media personality while you also have a professional quarterback as a guest on your show every week whose team is trash, whose organization is trash, who is involved in multiple dramatic activities throughout the year and has a worse record than Anthony Richardson. Now, the pushback that I got from people was that, well, Pat is a former Colt. He lives in Indianapolis. He's a season ticket holder. So, of course, he has more emotional attachment to the team. That's great. It's understandable. Pat McAfee is quite possibly the most powerful media member in the United States, sports media member, going into 2025. When you have that type of power, what you say cannot just be brushed aside as fandom. That's why when Stephen A. Smith says certain things, it doesn't just get covered on ESPN. Anytime Shannon Sharpe says something, it just doesn't get covered on ESPN. You are bigger than fandom. What you say carries weight. How you describe an individual dictates a narrative about that individual that they may not be able to shake. I remember JaVale McGee talking about the damage that Shaq did to his career by putting him on Shaq and the Fool all the time. The money that he lost, the ridicule that he received. When you are a powerful member of the sports media, what you say has repercussions. When you tell people that Anthony Richardson, at 22 years old, 2 years in the league, he's younger than Bo Nix, he's younger than Michael Penix, he's younger than Jaden Daniels, he's younger than Caleb Williams. When you say that he can't be a face of a franchise, that means something. And that's wrong. And some people were like, oh, Rob, you bring it up. It's a racial thing. You just said that because he's black. You just said it because he's a black quarterback. It's the race card. You always bring it up, race card, race card, race card. I never said anything about race. Because, like I said, I've seen this movie before. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Zach Wilson. It's not unusual for a young QB to take the fall. It's not unusual for a team to not have patience with the young quarterback. But let me explain something to you, my Caucasian friend. This is something that you don't have to do. It's not your responsibility. When you make certain statements, you know what's in your heart. So there could be a Colts fan out there right now that says, I don't want Anthony Richardson on my team. I don't think he could be the face of a franchise. I don't think he's any good. And it has nothing to do with Anthony Richardson being black. It has to do with his completion percentage. But what I always try to point out to my Caucasian friends is that what you say and how you feel maybe creates a narrative and a stereotype that you wouldn't want to contribute to. If Pat McAfee is listening, it's probably not. Busy man. That really is what grinded my gears. You have to think before you say certain things. You have to think about what narratives, what stereotypes you're putting out there for the public. He may feel, honestly, that Anthony Richardson can't be the face of a franchise. But when he says that, someone that has millions and millions and millions of fans, there are going to be people that take that in a different light. That's going to take that in a different way. That's not just going to look at that like ball. Once again, it's not his responsibility. It's not something that I could force him or anyone else to do. It's something that I, as someone that has had 20 years in this business and have seen how athletes have been treated. Never forget, the reason I'm here right now is because Joe Buck called Randy Moss basically a thug. And it felt like he wanted to call him something else for fake mooning some fans. That type of mentality just doesn't come from nowhere. Not saying that was what Pat McAfee was doing. Not saying that's what his intentions. Seems like his intentions just what he felt. But you still got to think. You aren't just Pat James that's talking to your buddy at the bar. You're Pat McAfee. You can't escape the fact of who you are and the influence that you have. You have put on this young man a stamp, a stereotype, a narrative because of your influence that he may not be able to get out of. Which is why, if I am Anthony Richardson, I'm his agent. I am walking into the owner's office and I'm asking, are you with me or you not? Because if you're not with me, if you don't think I can be the face of a franchise, if you don't think I can be the man that leads this team, then this is never going to work. And I have to go. That's what I meant when I said that Anthony Richardson needed to ask for a trade. Once you get hit with a stamp by these influential media members, be it Pat McAfee, be it Stephen A. Smith, be it Colin Cowherd, be it Joe Buck, be it whatever. There are a lot of people for a very long time that considered Randy Moss a thug simply because of what Joe Buck said. And that's why Joe Buck apologized many years later. You can't get around the fact that you are media. You can't get around the fact that you affect millions of people's opinions. Grand scheme of things, I'm a mid-major. I'm Gonzaga. Pat McAfee's Duke. And I hope that really thinks about it. When he really thinks about it, he understands the potential damage that he's done to this young man that has done absolutely nothing to him. Instead of lifting him up, instead of saying, you know something, he probably realizes he made a mistake and we're going to lift him up. We're going to give him support. He's going to be our guy for a while. We're going to do everything possible. Here's my number. Reach out to me. I'll be any help I can. Come on the show. I can give you advice about the city. I can give you advice about the fans. No, he's worried about the coach blogs trying to run him out of town. Come on, Pat. Be better than that. In some regards, I understand the frustration of my Caucasian brothers and sisters. The one thing about life is you don't get to choose how you're born into it. Sometimes you get born to Jay-Z and Beyonce. Other times you get born into a crackhead. It's just a roll of the dice. So I can understand how some white people can be triggered by the term white privilege, in the sense that many of them struggled when they were growing up. Maybe their parents struggled when they were growing up, and they had to work very hard to get to where they are today. And therefore, they look at the word privilege as a slap in the face. It's an understandable response. Unfortunately, I think they're looking at it from the wrong perspective. They're looking at it from a singular perspective as opposed to a societal perspective. Simply what it means is, are we truly equal in everything that happens? Is there true equality in every decision that's made? Simply put, if I came from the same background as you came from, and we both worked equally hard at what we do, who would be provided more opportunities? Who would be treated more fairly? Who would be less paranoid about the things that are going on around them in the world? Those are just facts. And they've been proven time and time again. If you just look at the discrepancy in home loans for black families as opposed to white families. If you look at how the educational system is used, the distribution of promotions and things of that nature. Those are facts of a privilege that being white gives you. Doesn't mean that you haven't worked hard. Doesn't mean that you don't deserve everything that you've gotten. It doesn't mean that you should be ashamed of what you've gotten. It's not your fault specifically that you're given better opportunities. It's a societal problem, not a singular problem. And when it comes to sports, that also carries over. but not in the sense that you may think. If you go to a football game, you go to a basketball game, you go to a soccer game, or whatever it may be, the demographics of America are highlighted very strongly at those venues. It's the majority white males that you see at these events. Psychologically speaking, people relate more to people that look like them. So it's not unusual if a white athlete in a black dominated sport gets a little boost if they're actually good. When Caitlin Clark spoke about getting everything that she got because she earned it, but also acknowledging there's some privilege involved, there's a component that I'm sure that she's aware of. That being this quote unquote all-American girl, being from the Midwest, coming from Iowa, of course it resonates with a big portion of America. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to be ashamed of about that. There's nothing to be triggered by that. It's just a fact. But also, what's also a fact is that she's not the first white basketball player ever to be good in the WNBA. If it was strictly a privilege thing, these other white WNBA players who have been in the league, Hall of Famers, WNBA champions, they would have been as popular as Caitlin Clark. But we know that's not the case. Because no matter if you're white, you're black, you're Asian, whatever it may be, there's an organic nature to the type of popularity that Caitlin Clark has. There's an organic nature in the fact that she supersedes every WNBA and college basketball player that came before her. You can't fake that. You can't just have one side do that. It has to be global. It has to be worldwide. It's just a component. Simply the Eminem conundrum. It was tough for Eminem to break into hip hop because he was a white rapper in a predominantly black culture. But once he broke into it, the reason that he still can make a number one album 20, 25 years after his debut, that's organic. That's because he's talented. He has something. He has it. You don't be that popular for that long just off the color of your skin. Ironically, this happens also in reverse. Even though Tiger Woods, I wouldn't say embraces his blackness, black people do get a kick, or did get a kick, out of Tiger Woods taking over a white dominated sport. Tiger Woods, y'all. Even though he didn't embrace it, the culture embraced it. Serena Williams, something else that we got a kick of seeing a black female dominate a predominantly European and white sport. So it's not unusual for a culture or a race to grab on to someone who's extremely talented and put them on a pedestal. We all have certain privileges, just depending on what we do in life. You know, there's rich privilege, there's media privilege, There's white privilege. We all have some variation of privilege. And instead of being upset about it, just acknowledge it, embrace it. If I was white and I knew I can get a reasonable home loan and I'm not going to get screwed, that wouldn't bother me. Be actually happy about that. I'd be happy to know if I got pulled over by the cops, there's a less likely chance of me getting shot or abused or harassed. If I knew that I can go to a store and there's a less chance of being followed or being harassed or people thinking I can't afford something in the store, I'll be happy about that. That's one less thing that you have to worry about. Because there's a lot of things to worry about in life. You worry about your family, you worry about your friends, you worry about your job, you worry about the war, you worry about politics. If I had the privilege of not having to worry about other things that I know that black people have to worry about, if I'm not Middle Eastern and I don't have to worry about if I get on a plane getting dirty looks, you think they like that? You think they like every time they go to the airport knowing that somebody's going to give them the side eye? I'm sure they don't. As a black person, I have privilege. I don't have to worry about that. Nobody thinks black people are going to bomb a plane. You should be happy when you have certain privileges. They said Jalen Hurts has pretty privilege. Dominique Foxworth on ESPN. He was joking, but it's a thing. If you're good looking, things are easier for you. These are facts. If you're ugly, they're harder. I hate to break it to you, but we're talking about facts, not feelings. If you're ugly, life is harder. Doesn't mean that you can't be a success. Doesn't mean that you can't overcome it. And it doesn't mean just because you're pretty that you're a good person. But if you're ugly, it's a little bit harder. If you're good looking, it's a little bit easier. If you make $40,000 a year, it's tough. If you make $400,000 a year, it's a little better. It's a little easier. Doesn't mean that you're better or worse than the person that makes $40,000. Doesn't mean that in your heart or in your head that you're happy. Just some things are a little easier. You have one less thing that you have to worry about. You can pay your bills. You can put your kid in a decent school. You don't have to worry about your car if it breaks, getting it fixed, or your air conditioning. It's little things that is a privilege. Jalen Hurts looks like old boy from The Young and the Restless, Shamar Moore. I'm sure that helps with certain things. I'm sure with advertisers or sponsors or businesses, hey man, this would work. Let's put him in a suit. Privilege is a thing worldwide. It doesn't determine the type of person that you are. Doesn't determine your happiness. It doesn't determine if you earned or not earned what you've gotten. Like I said, when we're born, it's just a crapshoot. LeBron James was born, tough situation, made it out, became one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He made it out that situation so he can get his boy Bronny in the league. So he doesn't have to go through that. That's privilege. There's privilege. And that's okay. And it's fine. Because that's what it's supposed to be. So, my Caucasian brethren, the good-looking folks that are out there, it's okay. If somebody says, hey, you have white privilege, say, yeah, I do. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm glad that I do. Because I don't have to worry about certain things that you worry about. Somebody calls you pretty and say, yeah, pretty. Yes. Yes. Ask your girlfriend, ask your wife. Like, when was the last time she paid to get in the club? If your wife, back in the day, asked her. Say, well, like, did you ever pay to get in the club? And your wife's like, wife started laughing. Yeah. She had pretty privilege. Saved herself thousands of dollars. She ain't paid for a drink since 1989 when she was 19 years old. That's the last time she's ever paid for a drink. It's okay. Privilege is a positive. When I go to the Super Bowl and I'm watching the game in a seat that probably costs $5,000, that's privilege. You never see me apologize about it. Hell, I get free popcorn. Today is my birthday, so happy birthday to me. That also means that it is BSO's birthday. BSO turns 20 today. That is 2 decades of being in this crazy, wild sports media business. I cannot thank Joe Buck enough for essentially calling Randy Moss a thug and therefore creating the spark in young Rob to start Black Sports Online. I'm not going to keep you very long. I'm not going to go over everything that we've done over the last 20 years. I just want to let you know that I am blessed and thankful for each and every one of you that have been with me at any part during this journey, friend or foe. But I do want to tell you a quick story. And I hope that this story helps you move forward in 2025. When you do something for 20 years, or in my case, most of my adult life, there's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be some peaks and valleys. And you find out about people not with the highs, not with the peaks, not with the successes, but during the lows, during the valleys, during your toughest times. And sometimes you can learn a lesson about how people treat you during your lowest times. You guys know Scoop B. Scoop B has been a reporter since he was a kid, much longer than me. There's literally video of him interviewing NBA players, I think when he's like 8 or 9 years old. He's gone on to do amazing things in the industry, and he continues to do amazing things in the industry. I wouldn't say me and Scoop are friends. We would at times run into each other at certain events, give fist bump, little head nod, like most black people do, and keep it moving. I was having a particularly tough time. I was having a particularly tough time at a point in my career. And people that I thought was family and friends, when I thought they would have my back, they didn't. And I don't hold it against them. I don't hold any grudges. It's just eye-opening to kind of see when you're at your lowest, who really, stands by you. And I was sitting right here in this office, just sitting here, just thinking. Because in life, nobody's, perfect. You're going to make, mistakes. You're oftentimes are going to be your own worst enemy. And there are going to be times that you want to fight back, that you want to say certain things, that you want people to understand certain stuff, but you just can't. It's not the right thing to do. You just got to own it, take it. It's difficult though. And I was sitting here right in this office, just pondering to myself that some of the people that thought was friends, family even, didn't really have my back. And my phone rang. And it was a number that I didn't recognize. I picked up the phone, said hello, and it was Scoop B out of the blue. And like I said, me and Scoop aren't friends. We didn't never really hung out. We were colleagues, associates. And Scoop B called me. And he didn't say much. Just asked me how I was doing, how I was feeling. Told me it was going to be all right. Told me to keep my head up. Told me that he understood. And that was it. Conversation only lasted maybe a minute or two. And I'm getting a little emotional, which I know people rarely have seen me get emotional about much of anything in the last 20 years. Too many conversations by somebody that had no reason to call, no motivation to call, but just wanted to see how I was doing. And oftentimes, during those highs, and especially during those lows, nobody really asks you how you're doing. They often ask you for things. They ask you for favors. They ask you for help. Or in some instances, they want to see you fail. They want to see you fall off. They get joy out of bad things happening. But rarely, very rarely, do people just ask you how you doing. Give you a little encouragement, a little pat on the back. Scoop ended the call, said, if I ever need anything, just let him know. Well, he probably doesn't even remember this. But I do. And on that day, I stopped feeling sorry for myself. Because you got two ways to go in this life. You can continually look backwards, or you can go forward. Furthermore, you always have to look at what you've been blessed with. And trials and tribulations are a part of life. And I've been blessed for 20 years to do the one thing, honestly, that I'm good at. Being able to talk and write and speak to you about sports or comics or entertainment. Never had a script. Never wrote anything down on a piece of paper. Never had writer's block. Everything I've ever said comes right off the top. And for 20 years, I've been blessed to do that. And those blessings allowed me to do things, to go places, to talk to people that I never, ever, ever thought I ever would. It allowed me to meet my amazing, beautiful wife. It allowed me to take care of my 3 little girls, who I love more than anything in this world. It's allowed me to help hundreds of people in this industry that look like me. I used to be the kid in those rooms. Now I'm the guy that some people come to and ask for advice, ask for help, try to give life lessons to. Because as Hove said, you know, Rob did that, so hopefully you don't have to go through that. So when I look back on 20 years and hopefully I got another 20 years in me, I just come back to the fact that because of you guys, you have made my life something that I can be very proud of. And you have allowed me to better other people's lives, which is something I'm very proud of as well. And I thank you for that. I appreciate you taking out the time to listen to this story. You never know how many more days we have left on this earth. You only get one chance with this. There's no rewind button. And the older we get, the wiser that we get. We look back on things and sometimes you can't believe what you did or what you said. But you just have to move forward and try to be the best person you can be each and every single day. Once again, for anyone that's ever supported me, I want you to know that you're appreciated. And even people that I've butted heads with, disagreed with, had issues with, you get to a certain age to know that stuff really doesn't matter. You know, if I was wrong, I'm sincerely sorry. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me. For those that have done wrong by me, I've forgiven you a long time ago. And hopefully, as we go forward in 2025, there'll be more people in the world like Scoop B. There'll be more people in the world that will, at your lowest moments, just reach out to you and ask you how you doing. To keep you going, to keep your head up. Hopefully you'll be one of those type of individuals. I know I do my best to be one as well.